All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another photo critique from the Digital Photo Rec group on Flickr. I'm Toby.
And I'm Christina.
And again, we went through that method of asking you all to pull pictures out of this group, put them on the Facebook page, and again, just some fantastic photos in here. Part 2 of the image critique from that batch that was posted on Facebook a week or so ago, and we're just going to dive right into it.
Yep.
So our first one here from Wesley.
The first thing that stands out to me about this image that could be improved is the cutting off of either side of this dancer's costume or dress. I also feel like you could have zoomed in maybe a little bit more.
No, he's at 135.
Never mind. I thought for whatever reason you had the 18 to 200. All right, never mind. The angle could have been corrected a little bit. It's leaning to the left just a tiny bit. The people, and I realize this is probably really challenging because you were...
He was at the wide... I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
It's busy.
Yeah.
The people in the background are almost completely in focus too.
Right.
Which makes them quite distracting. You were at the widest aperture you could shoot with this lens, so that's good. I think you were going for that because I see that you shot an aperture priority, and so you consciously set that aperture. And so there's not much you can do in that case with this kit lens. So I think let's concentrate on what you could have done, and that was Christina's suggestion of actually pulling back a little bit. We would have had a little bit more... Well, pulling back a little bit more to not cut off those beautiful colored fringes on part of this costume here.
Yeah, and I think with pulling back also, you may have gone, or you may have tried going, just lowering your angle a little bit, and then maybe shot from below, and then that way you could still get the action, but, you know, cut the people out a little bit more and frame her against the trees. It may have made a stronger photo.
That's a great, and that was what we talked about in that quick tip of think before you click.
That's correct.
And I think that would be a great suggestion here. And also, you probably were sitting similar to the people on the other side. I doubt you had much room for movement, so that changing your angle up or down, that's a great way to do it. But if you did have a little room for movement, you could also frame her between those two trees back there too, I think. All of her wouldn't have fit between them, but her head at least...
And I'm sure she was moving too, so that would have made it even more challenging.
Yeah. Well, you could wait, maybe, for the movement.
For the right moment.
Yep. But this is one of those things where, Wesley, I wonder how many pictures you took. This is a spot where I would probably take a lot of images and then just pick one, maybe two, from at least one single dance. So, great. Thank you so much, Wesley. Simeon has Cabin in the Woods.
This is a really cool image. I love the light. It looks very surreal.
It almost looks a little HDR to me. I wonder, I think there's some post-processing here that really brought the shadows up.
Well, it makes it look really,
I'm not saying
really
that in a bad way. Yes.
Right,
Oh, I agree. I think the lighting and the processing on this image here is wonderful.
Yeah. I think if this image, you're right, it does look processed, so correct us if we're wrong. But if you did go as far as to do some HDR or some dodging and burning in post, I may have also just cut these cars out of the frame, just Photoshop them out, maybe done like a little brush of some kind.
A little clone stamp
to
take the bushes like, or branches from above.
Yeah, and the other thing is I would have cropped just slightly here to not leave so much room over on this side. I feel like it's looking like dead space a little bit. Otherwise, you've got a really nice picture.
Yeah, it's great, Simeon. I don't think I have much to add. Although it's okay, so I see you're shooting with a 70 to 200. And that shooting at 70 gives some nice compression.
Yes.
I wonder, another shot, if you return to here, would be just basically right here, portrait orientation of this area that kind of is this leading path to the cabin.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I like the framing and the composition.
These trees.
Love the trees.
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree. The trees do add a lot to this image. It's great and shot in manual mode, and I wonder if you were using a tripod at 1/30th of a second with the 70
yeah.
to 200. I hope you were, but it looks sharp, so I'm going to assume you were. So I think this was a nicely premeditated shot, and you pulled it off, and it looks great. Chatfield Hollow, I wonder where that is. Jonathan has a sunset in National Harbor. And I want to, I think first thing, Jonathan, I don't know if you noticed this. I imagine you did looking at this picture. It looks like you had a plane that was probably landing at Reagan. Used to live in the D.C. area. And here it's little lights blinking on this longer exposure of 30 seconds as it flew across the frame.
Yeah, this is very cool. The exposure is pretty much perfect, I think. The composition is nice, and I really like the lights reflected on the bottom. I don't think I have too much to add here. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a nice image. I might have the little plane lights don't add anything up here, and they're a little strange that somebody might be like, what are those? Is your camera broken or something? Hot pixels. So I think I would have cloned each of those out. But I think it's great. I love that you shot with 18 to 55 at 55. I think this is one of those scenes people step up to and shoot wide to think they have to capture much. But you zoomed to the maximum of your lens, and it's a strong composition for it. I agree with Christina. The reflection on the lights down here is great. And just overall looks good. I like it. Nice colors. Nice sunset. Thank you, Jonathan. Scott has a bee on a daisy by the canal in our backyard. Shooting with the SL1, which for whatever bizarre reason,
that's a weird icon.
Flickr comes up with a Polaroid icon for it.
This is great. I think you zoomed in as far as you could, and you can see that even at 5.6 at 250 millimeters, you can get a really nice bokeh and shallow depth of field to isolate this image. I think the only thing that I'm going to suggest is that next time you leave a little bit more, and we're looking at the EXIF data now.
Yeah, sorry, I was just looking to see if there... Scott, I was wondering if you had cropped this at all. I'm just impressed with the level of detail. And this is the slightly older 55 to 250 lens, your budget zoom, and this is a great... I think the quality of this image is great. Sorry, yeah. But you were going to say...
Just leave a little bit more room for these guys to breathe at the bottom. Because it's sort of... I wouldn't say it's completely distracting, but it just feels like there should be a little bit more room. Otherwise, it's really nice. The composition's perfect, and, I don't know what else you could do with the light to make it any better.
I agree. It's nice. I also wondered, did you use a flash? See this reflection?
That's what I wondered, too. I wondered if that was the sun.
No, off, did not fire. So we're going to assume it's the sun unless you were doing some magical off-camera flash work as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Great. Thanks, Scott. Dustin's got yoga on the rocks. His wife doing a crazy 8.
That's very crazy.
It is. At Ferncliff, Illinois. So I noticed this is another one of those pictures that jumped out at me when I was scrolling through the group. I noticed this and I thought, cool. And in the smaller thumbnail, I couldn't quite tell if she was rock climbing or if it was, flat. A yoga pose on flat ground. And bigger I can tell. But that's, that makes it a strong image, and that kind of grabs your attention, and it's a different perspective is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's really cool. I think this is a really neat image. A couple of picky points is this little tuft of grass right here, and then her shoe intersecting with this over here. I think I would move her into this area, away from that, and then she would be framed on either side by that, and her legs would be over here somewhere, and this grass would intersect her legs. But I think that's fine because it's not intersecting into bits, which takes away from it a little.
It looks like you filled in the shadows with on-camera flash, because I see some catch lights in her eyes that look like they came directly from camera, or maybe they came from an off-camera flash, or maybe they're a reflection or something. But there's definitely, because here's a sun, right?
Yep.
And there's definitely like
something catching right in the middle of her eyes. I see that too.
So, so I don't know what you used to light her face. I mean, it's a very strong image. I'm not crazy about the negative space here. Or the dead space, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you could frame her up against the shadows in the trees, or maybe up against the sky, shoot from a little bit of a lower angle. But otherwise, I mean, otherwise it's great, and I would agree with Toby that this is a little bit distracting, and this too. So, but I mean, just could he rip it out, or would that be bad?
No, don't rip it out.
Okay, never mind.
You mean like physically go pull the grass up?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
But you could. She could put her hand on it. If she moved her pose a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's these very little things.
To
watch for.
It's a great image, so definitely keep at it.
Yep. Nice. Very nice.
Thanks for submitting.
And I wonder how long your wife can hold this pose. It's impressive.
Cute
Eugene has Domino. She has 3 black circles on her back, hence the name. This is very cute. We're suckers for the animals.
We are. It's a really cute portrait of a pet.
It is. It's really nice. Again, another example of the 40 millimeter being used here. You could maybe get a little bit closer, but I don't know. You could swing over to the right. You could swing your camera to the left a little bit, getting rid of this curtain here or a bit of a chair or something. That doesn't add anything to it. And come in so you're just in here is where the right hand starts. Exposure is great. Start to lose a little detail down here, a little hot, but it's a white cat with black. I think overall, it's quite nice.
No, I think the exposure is great considering there's so much white. Possibly
a little bit of stuff back here.
Yeah, I don't know that shifting the perspective would be necessarily good because there probably would be more stuff in the background that might be distracting. But definitely fill the frame with the cat a little bit more so that we don't have these curtains here. Pictures of pets are challenging because they move really fast. When you want to take pictures of them, they don't. And when you don't want to take pictures of them, they're like right in front of your lens sniffing it. So,
do you speak from experience?
I do, yeah. But this is a great picture of a cat. I wish we could photograph our cat being like this.
Thanks, Eugene. All right, next we got this one from Marianto. Marianto, we aren't going to critique this so much because you have had several critiqued. But we do want to point out this is a nice picture. You and use this as a great example of showing folks that how well Photoshop can stitch images together. So as you said, this is a 360-degree panorama stitched from 20 vertical format images. So you were shooting these in portrait of your camera, and we recognize that building over there in one of your earlier pictures. But as folks notice and look closely, you do not see seams. It is so nicely stitched together. I think your exposure across here is great. And it's just overall a really nice image. And I'm going to be talking more about how to stitch panoramas very soon. Nice job, Marianto. Thanks for submitting it. We've got this one from Christian. Now, when at the end of each of our podcasts each week, we pick a favorite picture of the week, where we just kind of dive into the Flickr group. And technically, we don't necessarily pay attention to going back a week. We just look for a picture that we haven't seen before. I almost picked this one or one other you had submitted. It was very close to being my favorite of the week. It was just very interesting. I don't think it was actually this one, but it was just very different and very interesting. This is some really interesting, for overusing that word a bunch, public art somewhere. And I like it. And so now let's critique your image. Well, I think this is really neat. But we get this, I don't know what else is over here to the left, but we intersect with this building, which has some really strong lines down here in the legs. And that kind of back here too. That keeps pulling me away from really focusing on this. We're shooting with a really wide angle lens, f10, 10 millimeters. Yes, so everything is in focus in here. And I think maybe maybe you were trying to capture everything, and I don't think that makes it as strong as it could be if you picked to capture this spider, we're going to call it, or this background back here. So I would have liked to see a little bit more focus on this, a little bit shallower depth of field, but I think your exposure and your black and white toning has worked really nicely here.
Yeah. I kind of disagree with you about the composition. It looks to me like a little bit of an HDR image, something which I'm not a huge fan of, but here it doesn't look terribly strong.
The effect doesn't look
The effect doesn't look super strong.
So it doesn't bother you? You haven't decided?
I haven't decided how I feel about it yet. But I think it's probably really challenging to capture the spider without many distractions, especially with an ultra wide lens. So, I like the balance of this image. I like the composition. The spidery looking statue definitely looks like the focal point, like the clear focal point. And yes, the building's a little bit distracting, but I don't think it's a huge deal. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think there are ways to capture this and include the building, just not necessarily have them intersect as strongly as they are here in my mind.
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly. Yep. Great. Thank you, Christian. Carrie, life goes on.
This is really cool. You captured 5.4 seconds. And I love it when people get photos of people in motion, like when they're just walking, because I don't know. I prefer it to movement of cars. I think people moving are more interesting than cars moving.
We got cars here too, though.
I know.
Okay.
But I find people more interesting. It's a cool image. It feels a little bit dark to me, but I guess this is what this scene would have looked like at night. So it's very true to what it looks like in real life. I like the motion of it. I don't know if I'm crazy about the tilted angle of it. But right. I like the duality of the people and then the cars on the right and the people on the left, and then this one person reading something or looking at their phone. Yeah, I might just fix the angle, just straighten the horizon, and that's about it.
Yep, I agree. It's not quite crooked enough to seem very deliberate, and we're not quite fans of that anyway, or I should say we're not fans of that. We've seen very few pictures that work for us that are crooked. I would straighten it. I think, at the expense of repeating Christina, I do really like the three aspects of this image. The walking movement, the person in what looks to be in sharp focus and not blurred from motion, and the cars whizzing by. We got the three speeds here. Now, I'm a little surprised, Christina, you didn't say anything about white balance here. It's very warm to me, and that's what we're going to get from these halogen lights, but you okay with that? You wouldn't change it?
Yeah, the reason that I fixed white, or I would suggest fixing white balance in the other images, is because those images seem a little bit more like portraits, whereas this seems like more of a photojournalistic style image. So I don't think, this image looks like if I were to walk here into this picture, physically be there, it would look just like that. Yep. So,
it's a good point.
I like that about it. I think it's great, and I don't think it needs white balance correction.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Icarus 6.
I feel like this image is a little bit too busy to be able to appreciate just one thing. It's a very cool scene. I feel like if I were there, it would be, very, very amazing. And the colors of the sunset are captured beautifully. But I don't know. I feel like the bridge is a little bit too close to the edge. The dock is a little too close to the edge. And I don't know. I can't decide. These definitely fill the water out nicely, but then they're also a little bit distracting.
I'll take what you said and give a concrete suggestion. I think you have some really neat reflections here of these rushes in the water and the sky, and this would be a strong image right in this area here. You're with the 60, 24 to 105 at 32, so you have a lot of room to zoom in. Christina, you're shaking your head no?
Yeah, because I think that you would run into the issue of cutting this part off and then this part off, and then probably also intersecting with this if you're compressing the background, so I don't think it would be that easy.
Okay, all right, so it might not be that easy, but I think it would be I think that would be a very strong image is what I want to tell people. This is very similar to Crystal's picture where we were talking about filling the frame with your subject. People often want to capture a whole scene. You walk up and there's a lot to like about this that we're saying. Beautiful colors, beautiful reflection in the water, and, kind of capturing the dock leading out into it. But then we start to get too much of the dock, and the dock being right on the edge, as Christina was saying. We got this stupid thing up here. Sometimes, I'm not stupid because you took a picture of it, but, sometimes people put stupid things in stupid places. It's like, gosh, this would be beautiful without that. So I think that something should be decided of what they want to capture. And when I was a beginner, I would say, well, I'm trying to capture the beautiful sunset and the reflection. And then think, well, what do I need to capture to show that? And it could be much less than what we have right now.
I just got an idea for another homework assignment.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
What is it?
So the homework assignment for this week should be...
We make it a little bit longer than a week, but okay.
Okay, sure. Next 2 weeks. We'll ask people to visit a scene or a subject, or probably a scene, and take a photo of the entire scene to showcase the whole thing in whichever, create a good, nice picture, and then pick one element from that scene to close into and showcase individually. And don't find the lack of a zoom lens as a limitation, because you can not zoom in with your feet, get closer, pick something else that you can showcase and you can really close in on. So one really, I'm going to say wide, not in reference to the lens, but just in terms of what you're capturing. So capture an entire scene and then one element within this scene that you can close in and just frame and photograph in such a way that is the sole focus. So you're still illustrating the same thing, but through a different eye.
Yep. Great. That's awesome. We will talk more about that soon. Thanks. Okay, good. I think we're good here. Thanks, Icarus X. Luis has submitted the Calm Sea. Another kit lens, another manual exposure. I love it, people. I love it. Really makes me happy. 123-second long exposure.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's interesting.
That's awesome. I imagine you were using some type of intervalometer to be in bulb mode. I love this picture. I think it's great. And the colors, it's almost monochromatic. There's not a whole lot of blue here. I mean, it's like 95% blue with a little bit of the sand here and a little bit of this color up here. Nice movement in the clouds. Being picky, maybe get that little cat turret off the beach, and you could actually just crop in a little bit. Sorry, it's not really a cat turret. I'm sure it's probably a beautiful shell or something. Crop in just a little bit. This bigger part of the land coming in doesn't add anything to it. And maybe there's this one bit right here too. Go ahead, Lightroom, stamp that sucker out. It's gone. These little dots are fine. They're part of the texture of the sand. But that, since there's nothing else there, and but that could be gone by cropping it over there. It's a great image. I love it.
Yeah, the colors are really great.
I'd love to see this as a wallpaper.
Yeah, it looks like a painting.
On a computer, not on the bathroom wall.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you. What is that? Luis. And our last image, Javier, kids running. I often end up capturing my images with something that is very
artsy fartsy.
Banal. No, banal, like kids running.
Really?
When they're kids running. I feel like I do this too. Where
that's what I do too.
I always want to come up with some really great caption.
I'm terrible at that.
Like, youth in motion.
Right.
All right. So, we're not here to critique titles, though, because we don't care what you call them. We just care what you're capturing. And this is a nice picture. Gotta be careful, though. At f5.6, the little girl who's just a foot or two behind what I'm going to assume is her brother is just a little bit soft. And it would be nice if they both were in good focus. Although, you know what? Looking at this bridge railing here, it looks like it's still in focus back there.
It looks like it's a little bit back focused, and it looks like there's probably a little tiny bit of motion blur.
Yeah, 320th of a second. That should freeze these kids.
Yeah. I don't know. So let's look beyond that.
Okay.
And so it's hard to critique images like this because I hate to be negative about an image where you're obviously just trying to capture these two children.
And had just a few moments to do it.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? You probably didn't even know that they were going to start running, or I don't know. It's challenging. No matter how good of a photographer you are, or how long
But that
you've been doing
said,
it.
here's what could make it a stronger image.
Yeah, but that said, so I feel like this bridge should be centered. Like, there should be some sort of symmetry in this image. You should either crop all this stuff, or you should move this bridge more to the center, so that the bridge is centered. And then the kids would probably be over here, so that would follow the rule of thirds. I also don't really love the frame that you chose. Their action, I'm not really sure what he's doing. Is he stopping her from falling? Or, I mean, they're obviously like laughing and playing, but I don't think these are their best expressions right now in this moment. So maybe if you can, if you ask them to run, maybe tell them to go back and do it one more time, like bribe them.
They'll never look as cute.
Huh?
They'll never do it as cute again.
Well, I mean, you can just try.
Right.
Yeah. So just tell them to, I mean, kids love to run, so just like bribe them with something. I think it's totally fine to bribe kids if you want to get a picture of them. So, yeah, I feel like it feels like a snapshot, and I think that is what it is. And so as far as that, I don't want to be super critical, but if you're really, I mean, I guess if you wanted the feedback and you submitted this image to get the feedback, that's what I would do. I would make sure that the bridge is centered, and I would take multiple photos so that you have something to choose from their expressions, because I don't think these are the best expressions that they gave. I don't know what focus mode you were in, but it might also help to do autofocus iServo mode, which allows your camera to track the subject from, the starting point to the end point, and then you don't have to continue to refocus. I don't know if you did this, but if you didn't, that might help you to get them more in focus. Yeah. But, one good thing is that the sun is behind their backs, so they're not super side cross-lit. So I think that's a good thing about, something good about this picture.
Yeah, great. I mean, I'll just add, step to the right a little bit to keep her from being intersected with this railing. That would frame her over to the left a little bit more. And that also might give enough perspective that his hand then wouldn't be intersecting with her.
And I think
you said that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
in
it's
a different way.
Right. So the idea is just to center the bridge, and then, but yeah. I think if the bridge were a little bit more centered, then she probably wouldn't be intersecting so much.
Okay. I was worried that from you saying centered the bridge, it wasn't clear enough to shift the perspective, so I just wanted to repeat it.
That's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you, Javier, and thank you to everybody who submitted pictures for this critique. You've got an assignment, and this is exciting. I like that you just made it up on the spot. I think it's an excellent assignment. We're looking for 2 images from you, and this is going to be running over the next 2 weeks. So that was one kind of that captures this whole scene, and then one where you really get in close to what your subject is and isolate and focus on your subject. Focus, both actually camera focus and focus.
Definitely camera focus.
What's another word for focus in this case?
I think that's the right word.
That's the right word. Yeah. Okay. All right, so you heard from Christina that we have an assignment now. Do you want to revisit that assignment? Do you remember what it was from earlier in this podcast?
Yes, so the assignment was to go to a scene, a place, or photograph something, and take 2 different shots. One that sort of captured everything, the whole scene, that was a little bit, that included a lot more of the scene in the shot, and then one where you singled out one item in the scene to still tell that story, but just get in close and really focus in on that. Is that a good explanation of it? Can't think of any other way to.
No, I think that's great.
Yeah. So
good. We'll write that up and we'll post a blog post about it and give people a little more direction.
Sounds great.
Great. All right. Well, again, thanks so much for watching. Thank you all to everybody who submitted their photos for critiquing. I know it's not always easy, but we really enjoy it, and I love the feedback we're getting from you all. I think you all are enjoying it as well. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.
Good night.